Hey everyone. I'm excited to share with you a little bit of a different episode this time on the Talent Forge. Usually we dig into human behavior, neuro insights, as well as some of the psychological aspects of talent development. But today's episode is a little different in the best possible way. We're actually going to take a look under the hood of an emerging tool that's redefining how learning happens in the AI era. I'm joined by special guest Frank Fusco from Silicon Society. It's a company that's building the future of experiential learning, something I'm really passionate about. They're doing this one job shadowing session at a time. Imagine learning not just from a course or a manual, but by actually following someone doing the work and having an AI enhance that experience in real time with personalized content that evolves as you go. That's exactly what Silicon Society is making possible, a real world AI powered upskilling at scale. So, whether you're a learning professional, a tech enthusiast, or just curious about how the next generation will learn at work, this conversation is going to be packed with insights that can change the way you think about talent development in action. So, let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Talent Forge, where we are shaping the future of training and development. Today, my special guest is Frank Fusco, and we are looking forward to an incredible conversation. Welcome to the show, Frank.
Thank you so much, Jay, for having me.
So, I have been looking forward to this conversation because I think it's a huge gap in both the industry as well as some of the conversations we've had here. We're going to talk about tech in the learning and development space. But before we do that, I want the audience to get to know you a little bit. Frank, how did you land in this space? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, it's a very winding journey. So I actually originally went to
Aren't
school.
they all, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I think the best ones are, but I'm a little biased.
that's right.
So I originally went to school for liberal arts.
Okay.
Uh, Started out as an English major. I kind of wanted to be a starving artist author for a while when I was kind of a little bit younger. Then I got really interested in computer science. It was sort of this field that was calling out to me. There was a lot of almost like romantic. Uh, I don't know. There was this kind of feel about Silicon Valley and tech, and it's the future, and it's empowering, and you can transform things and really have outsized leverage on the world. And that was so appealing to me when I was 18, 19. And I never considered myself very math oriented. I'd never considered myself. I don't know. I always just kind of wanted to write and to influence opinion and kind of like live in that realm. And then I don't know, this romance started kind of getting me, I think. So I kind of switched to computer science for a while, and it wasn't what I expected in the academic setting. So, from a college standpoint, I was okay, great. I want to code. I want to make apps. I want to change things. Uh, and it was like solve for X in blah blah blah, and like okay, these giant weed out lecture classes, and I was just like, this isn't what I signed up for. This is what I thought this was going to be. So I kind of like washed out of that really quick, and I was like, nope, back to English. So I got a liberal arts degree, and yep, was just kind of like writing things on the side for a while, and then pivoted back eventually to computer science a few years later when I was like, no, never mind, I want to do that. I have to do it. So I went back to school for computer science. So I have a bachelor's in liberal arts and a bachelor's in CS in my background. Um, so after that, I co-founded a nonprofit with my good friend Samir Lakhani called Eco Soap Bank. It was not technical to start. It was supposed to be just a humanitarian project. We hired economically disadvantaged women in developing countries to recycle soap from hotels and manufacturers. So
Incredible.
soap scraps from manufacturers, um, and then we would train them in English language skills and other skills that they could then go get a job in their local area. We'd pay them 5 to 10 times the going wage in their area as well, reinject cash into the community, and then get the recycled soap to schools, hospitals, village communities.
That's amazing.
And it started out, yeah, I don't know, it was just a nonprofit that we had started out, but turned out that it actually was at scale a logistics operation that required a ton of internal logic and coordination and ops.
Mhm.
And we were pretty young. I had no idea what that was going to entail. But then going down that path, I ended up really putting my CS degree into action, and yeah, developing a lot of internal software. There was localization because a lot of stakeholders we interacted with didn't speak English or speak it very proficiently. And integrating with the logistics stuff, we were an early partner of Flexport, so that was interesting from a technical perspective as well. So we accidentally built like a giant worldwide logistics operation backed by like a really complex internal tech backbone. So I accidentally got like a crash course in a few things there, including learning and training. Um, After that, I actually ended up going to Lambda School to run their experiential learning program. The labs program there was essentially the last unit in the curriculum. So they would go through this 6-month course, just crash course in coding. So there was full stack software engineering and data science. Then they would end up in labs at the end, and they would put it all into practice, building real software for real nonprofit organizations in teams together. So that was their practicum, you could say. Um, that was a really amazing experience, and it was really unique. Honestly, I'd never been in a position to have so much impact at once, like so quickly. You know, we worked with tens of thousands of learners who came from all kinds of backgrounds. We were working with people who were, they were joining our classes from their car because they were unhoused. We were working with people who, were later on in their careers and they were uh, just interested. We were working with people who came from all walks of life and all situations. And it was just, I don't know, it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life personally to be able to work with all those people. As the program grew, it got harder and harder to be one-on-one with folks, but at least even still, it was just, yeah, it was really nice to have that kind of an impact. And then after that, it became clear to me that we needed something new, and that the bootcamp experiment, well, I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. I think the bootcamp experiment has largely failed. So that was my thesis with Silicon Society.
We're going to dig into why it failed. And because this is something obviously we talk a lot about on the show is why talent development has been failing in a number of different ways. So I want to dig into that. But I do want to share, we have a parallel journey on some level, but mine was in communication and then psychology.
Mm.
I thought I was going to go into psychology, ended up getting the communication degree, went back to psychology later, and then found neuroscience a little bit after that. So it's kind of funny how these how we end up where we end up and what those different markers are along the way. So thank you for
Yep.
sharing that, Frank. I am super fascinated with the connection between technology, modern technology, new age technology, future technology, and the L&D space. And I think it's definitely something that's underutilized by a lot of trainers, coaches, or even HR departments or anything else, that we're not really digging into things like AI at its capacity. I think everybody's been to Chat GPT to, hey, help me write this email or help me write this social post. But there's so much that can be done. So I want to get into there. But let's start with this question of the failures. What was your experience, or what were some of the things that you kind of came across along the way that gave you the indication like, hey, something's not right, something's not working here, and giving you this kind of pathway forward with what you're doing in Silicon Society?
I love that question. So it was a few things. So I think that, so first I just want to preface this by saying that the people I worked with were some of the most mission driven people that
Mhm.
I've ever had the pleasure of doing something together with. And I just want to make sure that's super clear before I, uh, say what I'm going to say about boot camps in general.
No, and I appreciate that because I work with a lot of L&D people who's literally they're so purposeful and intentional with trying to bring training, talent development, learning opportunities. And I think that they experience the same frustrations in
Right.
being able to say, why isn't this doing what I'm doing? Or why am I being pigeonholed into a particular area? So
Right.
uh, caveat acknowledged and accepted, and I share that for all of those talent people that are in the audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so continue.
Well, I think the nominal goal was, for most models anyway in the bootcamp space, is alignment of incentives, right? Like that's the language that's been used, and it's the mission that I think everyone really believed in, including myself, very strongly, in fact. That listen, as an institution, we're only going to succeed if you succeed. Um, and I think that is very powerful when you consider, okay, institutions of higher ed, sure, they also, they publish outcomes reports, and they have to be responsible to the public about how many people they're able to place in jobs or how many people are able to get jobs after going through their program. So that's a thing. But by and large, you pay your tuition to an institute of higher ed, and you go through the program, and you're just kind of crossing your fingers that you've gotten the value out of that makes you a marketable market actor by the time you finish. And the bootcamp sector was supposed to be this opportunity, and I think it was, to be clear, for a window of time for many, many, many people, and was very effective for those people, at least a subset of them. I saw it succeed. I saw it work over and over. But it was supposed to be an answer to that. Well, we as an institution have an incentive for you to succeed, and if you don't, then we die as an institution. That is a powerful motivator in general, especially for the people working there. And it's a very, I mean, I think it's a really valiant mission, but it didn't quite play out that way. And then I think you've got like this nominal alignment of incentives, but then ultimately there are only so many options out there at once for someone looking to completely radically transform their career. And unless you have a very diverse space of these incentive aligned institutions, it doesn't really work. It doesn't really actually live up to that in the long run. And especially if the market shifts out from under you, which is the second part of the way I see it, which is demand. You know, so during the pandemic, obviously demand skyrocketed and then pretty quickly dropped back off again, and you just see this curve, right, of just this collapse. And the job market out there, I mean, I'm sure most of the audience here is very familiar with the current state of the job market. Um, it doesn't. It's all well and good to impart these skills, but if you can't actually be marketable in those skills effectively because there aren't the jobs, then what's it for? So I think that's the other part of it. It's that we're not built for that anymore. We're not built for even a 6-month curriculum anymore. We need something faster. We need something that's more market aligned and more specific.
Well, and to that point, the expense of onboarding is something that I think organizations end up undervaluing. The idea of getting somebody up to speed or getting them ready to deploy or workforce ready,
Yep.
uh, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, all of that, it can be exceptionally expensive, not only for the cost of you just hired somebody and now you're paying them and they're learning the job, to the how much are we paying in the training or the talent development, the development of those things, or job mentoring or a manager doing this. So I love that you're bringing some of this into the space, and you said something that really caught my attention: the crossing your fingers strategy,
Right.
which I see so many L&D departments, unfortunately, and I'm not going to blame them because I think in a lot of places there's a lot of external pressure, either from the top or anything else, of hey, go get this done, and they're not really able to do as much that they want to do in terms of evaluation and things like that. So that's neither here nor there. So let's introduce this concept. Silicon Society does something that's kind of unique, and it's AI focused and it's tech focused and it's job shadowing. So it's actually creating the conditions that somebody can shadow. Talk to us about that. What does that look like, and why is shadowing such an important tool?
Well, so about that crossing your finger strategy, it's based on the idea that, okay, well, college, boot camps, even, whatever it is, you design this static curriculum in advance. You have people go through this curriculum of some length of time, and the crossing your fingers is that by the time you emerge, it's still relevant, and you can still take what you learned and be and get value out of that in the marketplace, as somebody who can deliver that value, uh, aka be hireable and effective.
Hmm.
And tech now is moving very fast. And I don't just mean the tech industry, I mean the tech that is impacting every industry. So, AI, sure. I mean, there have been, I think, tailwinds on this in a variety of ways. AI is the latest one, and I just think an exponentially more powerful force. But the fact is that what companies are looking for, what companies need, and what they will need going forward is going to be evolving exponentially faster than the ability of any static curriculum to keep up. And so our thesis is essentially that we have to probably, now not in all cases, but in many cases, probably start to abandon the notion that we can predict in advance some pre-baked static curriculum that we've curated and run people through it and wait for them to emerge on the other end and hope it's still going to be relevant. I think we need to abandon that. I think by and large, it's the future is really about exposing people to what's happening right now in the market, right this instant. We keep. I think the bootcamp experiment was valuable because it moved us closer to what the industry was doing. You know, I I didn't even like get exposed to a single line of JavaScript, for example, in my entire CS degree, which is really funny because not the entire world doesn't run on JavaScript, but if you're familiar
Yep.
with, web programming these days, it's everything.
Right.
So, it was just way, way behind, and you essentially had to teach yourself anyway. And the boot camp experiment got us closer, but ultimately, I think what we really need is just the ability to shadow somebody just doing their job right now. And then we just happen to just now have the tools that we've never had before in human history to actually make that functional beyond just, I am watching this person and I'm just like, you know, okay, okay, great. You just put some brackets there. What does that mean? I don't know. Or relying on that person to explain, all right, so I'm putting these brackets here for XYZ reason. It's because it terminates the expression, and then that's really important because blah blah blah. But that relies on that person actually being an effective and skilled and trained teacher.
Right.
And so what we've never had before in history is the ability for a machine to explain in real time what somebody is doing and why, and deliver all of the context around that, and put it in terms that will be relevant and parsable and actionable by me, wherever I am, whoever I am, whatever my learning goals are. Um, I personally think that is a truly epic opportunity in the arc of history to think about how we just now at this very moment have this ability. It's like this emergent ability to utilize this kind of technology to that end, to keep people up to date on exactly what's going on, to have them shadow people just working, whatever their job is, and to have tailored one-on-one instruction that both explains what's going on in general and tailors it to them directly.
Well, and I think it's interesting too because let's be honest, the number of jobs that I've had, and I'm sure that our audience feels the exact same way, where you came in with a job description of what your job is supposed to be. You can even think back, 10 years ago to the memes, what I do,
Yeah,
what they think I do,
yeah,
what I actually do, what my
yes,
boss thinks I do, what my part, right?
yeah,
We know that there are discrepancies and let's call it gaps in what a job description, a job role, et cetera, is going to look like, and
Yeah.
then what the actual day to day looks like. You
Right.
know, when somebody sees me speaking as a keynote on a stage, what they don't see is the significant hours of research that's gone into every single aspect of that presentation. What they don't see is me sitting there messing with PowerPoint or the handouts, trying to do all of these other things because, well, as a speaker or as a trainer, you get to see the end product, you get to see the output, you get to see some of those. So being able to shadow and actually say, okay, well, what does your actual day to day look like? I can see that just being powerful. And I love the frame that you use. It's partially learning by doing. So as a active learner, if I'm shadowing, whether it's through technology or anything else like that, what is the active doing aspect? Like, how am I actively doing by shadowing per se? Talk me through what that looks like in your world, Frank.
I'm going to give a maybe slightly roundabout answer to this, if that's
Sure,
okay.
yeah.
So I know probably a lot of people watching this are going to be familiar with Bloom's concept of the two sigma phenomenon, where if you give somebody a personal tutor, then under certain circumstances at least, they will have a two sigma multiply or boost in their learning effectiveness. And so that, that means they'll do better, um, than significantly better than if they were just left to their own devices or there were other learning interventions,
Yep.
or modes of instruction.
Well, that's
And
really consistent too with like the International Association for Coaching that talks about training alone is like 21%, training with a coach, training coupled with a coach or with
right,
somebody who's kind of going through that takes it to like 83% efficacy. So
right,
absolutely, definitely well founded in both Bloom's model, but also in even some of the more modern research now too.
right, absolutely. And so the thing that I find really compelling is, so yeah, I'm going on and on about this like historic opportunity and the new tech, but part of that is also that, I think for a long time we've really looked at this two sigma effect as this kind of like paragon. And like this is like, all right, well, two sigma, that's the dream, right? But now I actually think three sigma is in sight. And I think it's possible for us to optimize learning in a way that has never been optimized before because we have these new tools. And it comes down to us as technologists to wield those tools and to construct a system that reinforces that and achieves that effectively. But I absolutely think it's in reach. And so why I invoke that here is because, the reason the two sigma model is so, or the two sigma effect is achievable is because you have a back and forth. You have somebody who's tracking what you are learning in real time. You have somebody who you can interact with around the content. And it's at your own pace, it's tailored to you, they know you. Now, the cool thing though is that machines don't get tired, they don't have an off day. Granted, we're still working the kinks out of a lot of this AI stuff, and you've got hallucinations and you've got, a lot of nascent stuff that we're dealing with in this transitional period, I would say we're occupying now. But by and large, the best tutor is only going to have so much in their head before they have to go Google it or something, or do some research and come back to you next week.
Or until they lean into AI to figure out how to solve the problem. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So that's the thing, right? Is that AI just already has that, and so I think the key is that, well, we can lean into that interactivity, that interactive dimension, in a really creative way, to where we have additional modes now that are open to us, where basically as a learner who is participating in a shadow, so I'm shadowing somebody just doing their job. They don't even have to say anything. They're just sharing their screen, or they're wearing, Meta Ray-Ban AR glasses and they're capturing what's in front of them or whatever it is. We've developed an AI tutor personalized to you as the learner in that room. And they are the one narrating what's going on. So you get these little bite-sized parsable blurbs. We've been tuning this constantly to be the right amount of information hitting you at the same time so that's not too overwhelming, but also is providing you enough context to keep up with what's going on. So Beacon is essentially your guide to what's happening, tailored to you. But the real magic is that Beacon is interactive. So you can at any time just click a little question mark on any one of those blurbs that Beacon gives you, and it'll immediately give you additional context on that aspect. Or you can quote something and ask a specific question about that thing. Or you can just openly, essentially, chat with the shadow as like an entity, as a concept. Like, it's a very abstract thing where, okay, like, yeah, if I had a real human tutor with me, I could have a conversation with the tutor about what's going on. But I can actually chat with the session. I can chat with everything about the session. It knows everything that's relevant to what's going on. And that is interactive in itself. Now, we're still building out the next phase of the platform, but a lot of the additional interactivity is that it's not just about being in the room and like having this exposure to what's going on. It's about layering other elements on top of that, right? So checks for understanding that can just like dynamically be generated in real time by the machine detecting what you should be checked on. So no one has designed this in advance. Nobody has based this on something they're hoping 6 months from now is going to be relevant. It's being drawn in real time from what's happening, and it's quizzing you on what you need to know. And it's optimizing that for your retention of that material. And then the other aspect is outside of the room. There's a learning path and a learning journey that is also dynamically generated based on your goals. And you essentially get credit toward your learning goals, progressing down that path just by attending shadows, participating in shadows, and doing assessments that are dynamically generated around their shadows. So it's that level of interactivity that separates this, I think, from pretty much anything that's been tried before. And I think that's a pretty cool thing, personally.
So, yeah, I'm loving this concept because you're hitting on a number of the different things that I see as absolutely essential to effective training, talent development, workforce development, et cetera. Number one, real-time engagement. Number two, not, avoiding cognitive overload. Number three, having that sort of reinforcement or not just something where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this over and over and over again and turn it into a rote task. But this reinforcement of you have a learning partner that's an AI operated that's going to be able to essentially coach to specific things. So, I mean, you're checking all these boxes. I want to talk a little bit about logistics, right? Because I think that when I'm thinking about let's take the technology out of here for a minute, okay? Shadowing in the workplace has always been a difficult aspect for the learning environment. Well,
Yep.
why is that? Okay. Say somebody shadows me. Well, for a good majority of the day, the stuff that I'm doing is probably going to be exceptionally boring.
Right.
Secondly, shadowing me during a day, well, what's a typical day actually look like for some different jobs? One day I'm running around handling a crisis. The other day I'm doing, deep work and research and so on and so forth. So let's talk about shadowing in general for a second. And then what is it that the technology helps to do to overcome some of these things? Because from a logistics standpoint, does the shadowing, like if I'm bringing somebody into my company, does the shadowing shadow me or does it shadow somebody else that's doing what I'm doing or a AI generated? And I want to talk about some of the tech that gets into that, but shadowing. How are you operationalizing shadowing in a way that's actually effective, given what we know about some of the internal shadowing slash mentoring programs that are an abysmal failure?
Right. All right. Now, we have studied those internal shadowing programs, and many of them are an abysmal failure very, very frequently. But some of them have actually been quite effective. So we looked very specifically at the ones that were effective. And I don't even know where to start with this, actually. I'll just like, so I won't name any specific companies.
Sure.
The most powerful thing was whatever's already happening, don't mess with it. Like, so many of these interventions are, as soon as you even call it an intervention, like you've already messed up. You've already misdesigned the whole thing, because you're mucking about with like the way the company works. Uh, so spoiler alert, people don't like it when you mess up their job, when you make them
Stop
less
fixing
effective.
something that's broken and not broken, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So like we saw a lot of instances where it's just like, oh well, yeah, we're gonna do this mentorship thing. All you have to do is take 6 hours out of your week, and like, when you were supposed to do this one thing, just kidding, you have to like be in this room and like fill out this form with this person. Doesn't that sound great? Um, so and there was just a lot of I think that one of the, I mean, one of the, okay, well, I'm not supposed to talk about technology yet, but I will say that one of the nice things about tech in like in the HR space, for example, is that it has helped HR leaders run these things in ways that are less like, that feel less like bureaucratic. And I
That
think
makes sense.
the people that I know who work in HR, that's like one of the things I hear most frequently from them is like, oh, well, it integrates a lot better with it makes it a lot easier, lower friction for people, and it's just about making sure that they complete the thing or making sure this
Right.
or that gets done, and it's not a big disruptive thing. And so I think, yeah, we saw a lot of instances where it's either just like tacked on, and it's like just kind of expected that people are just going to do it, which usually doesn't work, or things are moved around a lot where it's requiring a lot of people to be in compliance. And I also think as soon as you say compliance, you've also messed up. Like this shouldn't be something, if people don't perceive value.
HR people cover your ears that are listening
Yeah,
in.
sorry.
No, it's all good.
And legal for that matter.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, in all seriousness, it's the point is that if people don't perceive the value of the thing, then you have more work to do. And we accept that in the market. If you don't make a sale, you should have sold better. Um, I think that the people I know who are working inside of companies to make things work within companies have so much on their plate, and they work so tirelessly to make things fit together. Priorities shift, the ground shifts from under you. You have to rebalance, and it's like one of the most difficult things. It's one of the most difficult endeavors, I think, to operate effectively in that kind of environment. And the most successful versions of it are versions where those individuals listen to the human beings and the very specific situations that they're in and the configuration that has emerged for what's effective for that organization. And they tailor what's going on to them rather than change it. So I think if I had to give a high level answer or a general answer, there are specifics on the ground at every company, and the way every company works is different. But it's don't mess with what's working for the company.
Hmm.
So the second part then, the tech, it's it's really about wherever you are and whatever you're doing. That's that's where the shadow happens. So again, I don't have to be a good teacher. I don't have to narrate. I don't have to change anything. I just have to share my screen. I just have to start the shadow, and then I'm working. Now, there is definitely a range of goals of these programs that we looked at in terms of why you would run a shadowing program or a mentorship program or an upskilling program internally, in the first place. And I think that's a subtle thing. So some companies are interested in just providing this as a benefit to their employees, like upskill and learn more. We know you are interested in learning more, advancing your career. Help us help you be promoted at the company. So that's a common one. But another one is that, hey, we have these rock stars at the company. We have these very experienced people who've been working for many years, and sometimes at great expense have acquired really exceptional skills and are extremely effective on the job. And wouldn't it be great if we could actually leverage those folks' knowledge and experience to as an engine, essentially, to help others like more efficiently acquire that knowledge. So I think there are kind of like both sides that can motivate, but the way you design the program, it needs to be based around a specific goal that you have. And then what the shape that that takes is kind of follows from what those goals are, and that's how it should be. But the key is don't mess it up. Don't mess up your company. Have people in the room with you. And the last thing I'll say on this point is you never know. You forget. You forget what you know. You forget what you've learned and what it cost you to learn that and how hard it was before you knew that thing. You develop amnesia frequently about what it was like before knowing the thing. And you just forget that other people don't have that in their head right now because you've moved on. You've integrated that into your whole being.
It's
And
rote. It's not something that you think to tell somebody. It just happens.
right.
Yep.
And so, like, oh man, this thing I'm doing, it's so boring. Why would anyone ever watch this? Like, who could possibly be getting value out of this? I can't tell you how many times I've like heard that from somebody who was doing something that's just doing their job. And
Frank, I
then
have I have a huge problem with this where it's like somebody will be like, "Okay, Jay, you think you went from A to B, but you actually went from A to L,
exactly.
skipped 9 steps in there because it was just you've done it for 20 years.
Right.
What did you do next? What did you do next? What did you do next?"
Right.
And I would have never saw that there was a gap, right?
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And like that's just where you never know what it is that somebody's getting out of something
Hmm.
until you hear from them. Like in the early iteration of this, when we were just kind of experimenting with this model a while ago at this point, actually. Um, so we actually operated as a software agency for a while. And we did that explicitly so that we could test people shadowing us and our staff as we worked and completed real world projects for real companies. So we kind of developed our own test bed, our own petri dish there, and that's how we developed the platform. We built it around us working. Um, and I was working on a client project. It was like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, I don't know. And this junior engineer who was on the client team, one of the things that we do as an agency, we still operate as an agency, by the way. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is we integrate with our client's team. So if you've got an existing team, great, we'll work alongside them, no problem. That's better for us because we get more exposure to what companies are doing in real life.
Sure.
And so I was just coding, on my porch at like 2 in the morning, and I'm just like bleary eyed, and I'm just like, going through this thing. We've got a deadline, and it's just like you have those nights sometimes. And this guy was just he was just on Zoom with me. We didn't have the platform at the time, just watching me do this. And I was just, I was finally going to bed. We figured the thing out, and I was just like, listen, man, I just like, I gotta commend you for staying up and doing this. Like nobody asked you to do this. You didn't have to do this. Like I just, I really got to shout you out here. And he was just like, "Are you kidding? That just watching you work has been like the most valuable experience ever." Like, I'm just like, "What do you mean?" Like, I was just like, it didn't feel like anything special that I was doing. Like, I was just, I don't know, banging this thing out. I was just like churning this out. And meanwhile, this person who's watching me is just like, "Oh, that was so valuable." Like the like little tricks, like the way that you use console log with brackets in it, so just log the object, and like instead of like having to like log every little thing. I'm just like, I mean, I think I learned that like I don't know 10 years ago or so. But like you forget that people don't know these little tiny tips and tricks, these little
Yep.
like real world things. No one has ever taught a class where they say, if you use console log with brackets, it's a lot easier to read in Chrome's DevTools. Like, no one's ever said that in a classroom ever. Probably. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I doubt it. But it's those little things that go a long, long, long way. And that was a really actually light bulb moment for me, actually, at that exact time was,
Huge. Yeah.
yeah, like, oh, that's right. There's stuff in here that I forget is valuable. And, there are many more skilled engineers than me out there in the world. And, imagine if we could harness their experience for everyone.
This lands for me, Frank, and my experience in it is the number of times that I've had some of my team say, hey, can I come with you? I'd like to watch you present. And I'm like, you help me design the materials. Why would you want? Because I want
Right,
to see how you present it. Or even
right.
something so much as, hey, do you mind if I sit in on your next call on a sales call or your next time that you're being evaluated for a keynote or any of these things? And it's just like,
Yep.
yeah, I don't mind ever inviting my team to participate in those things because we do recognize we learn by doing or by being engaged in something that's happening. So the fact that the software really does provide this is an incredible opportunity for us to think about how can we help people to see and also experience it. And then the added component of AI is such a powerful thing. Frank, uh, this is such a interesting concept. If our audience wanted to get in touch with you to learn more about Silicon Society, the programs and the shadowing concept, how would they reach out to you?
SiliconSociety.org. We've got a wait list right now, so technically we're in closed mode at the moment,
Okay.
but we will be keeping people up to date on when we'll be doing a wide open launch. So if you are interested, you can join the wait list at SiliconSociety.org. You can also get in touch with us via that website. And if you've got, if you're a business, you've got a software project you need done, you can also get in touch with us about that there as well.
Incredible. So I will be joining the wait list because I can see a number of different applications, even for training my own team and utilizing this. So I just want to say thank you, Frank, because I think this is a novel way for us to really rethink some of the ways in which we're training our internal teams and, as a tool to be able to uh, kind of overcome some of those big gaps that we're all aware of in both the learning and development space. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. And, thank you for all the work that you're doing in helping to elevate the talent development space.
Thank you, Jay. And I just want to shout out the team, Rachel Cohen, Shelby Schisler, Robert Sharp. We couldn't do it without them. So this is a full team effort. And I just wanted to be really clear that it's a product of the hearts and brains of everybody working together. So
Amazing. So thank you again for being here and a shout out to the team. Absolutely. So thank you, audience, for tuning into this episode of the Talent Forge, where we are demonstrating software to help the future of training and development. Thanks a lot.